This is the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. Newest Bengals cornerback, Trey Waynes. Trey, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you?
Our special guest is Hall of Fame offensive tackle, former Cincinnati Bengal, Anthony Munoz.
I think we have the making of a pretty good offensive line, young at a couple positions.
Hello, Bengals fans. I am Matt Minnick, and this is Shock Talk.
Former Bengals defensive back and current NFL media member, Solomon Welcott.
I remember 2015, wasn't that long ago. I think we had one of the best rosters, talented rosters in the National Football League.
Yes, Mr. Dhani Jones. How you doing, Mr. Jones?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on the show. You see my jersey over there?
We were focused, and the coaches did a really great job. The coaches had a really good plan, and honestly, our attitude, I feel, is what carried us over.
9 years in the league, 31 years old, still going strong. I think the results kind of speak for themselves. Mike, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on again.
Bengals Director of Player Personnel, Duke Tobin.
Yeah, we're going to build the draft board out all the way from top to bottom like we always do.
Former Bengals quarterback, Ken Anderson.
If you look at today's game and think I can complete 95% of my passes,
I would love to be playing today. I would have had to learn the shotgun. That's something we didn't really do with Bill Walsh. I think I could have handled it.
All right. It is 12:03 a.m. on Friday morning. I'm awake. I'm wide awake. Kevin's wide awake. You're wide awake because you're here. And we just got finished watching the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. It's finally here. No more mock drafts. No more nonsense. No more conjecture. No more speculation. It's here. And the Bengals went on the clock with the number 18 overall pick, and they selected Georgia offensive tackle Amarius Mims. Kevin, instant reaction. Go.
It's a great pick. Fan base is flipping out because we all have PTSD about every O-line pick that's ever been created, but it's Mims. He's built different. It was always going to be Mims or Murphy, and anybody who does not see the long-term value of this pick right away needs to take a step back from the idea that every pick needs to be a win-now scenario. This is an investment for the next 5 years in a really good one. The fan base is acting like this is Dax Hill or Miles Murphy. I don't know. Is a valuable pick at 18. You don't need convincing. He's a freak. His only negative is that he had limited snaps. Other than that, he's almost a perfect prospect.
So I'm obviously excited. You're obviously excited. I didn't introduce anything. I didn't even do it. I just started and went right into it. I'm Jason. That's Kevin. We're usually on 3 and Out.
Oh, yeah.
On the Orange and Black Insider. We're obviously hosting tonight. We're going late tonight on OBI. If you missed Anthony and John earlier tonight, go check them out. But yeah. So they took Amarius Mims, and like you said, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. He's got, of the guys that were available at 18, he's maybe got the highest ceiling. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yes. And people over-exaggerate his low floor. He's such a freak athlete. He can't be bad. He might not turn into some monster that we all think he could be.
Right.
He's too big, too strong, too fast to be bad in the NFL. I truly believe that.
Yeah. So obviously the idea they went in with the idea of we're going to protect Joe Burrow, and like you said, I mean, right now, Trent Brown, Orlando Brown Jr. are penciled in as the starters. If they're healthy, I mean, maybe Amarius Mims doesn't play. But like you said, it's an investment for the future. If he doesn't play this year, he plays next year, slots in at right tackle there. And if he does play this year, it's because one of the massive human beings at offensive tackle weren't able to stay healthy. And Trent Brown has kind of had that issue in the past. So it makes sense on multiple fronts. There were some guys available that I wasn't surprised they passed up on him for Mims, because Mims makes sense to me, but it would have been nice to have him all at the same time. But if you're going to give a final grade for the number 18 overall pick with Amarius Mims, what grade are you going to give?
It's an A-, and it's a well-earned A- as opposed to the overinflated A- I likely gave to Miles Murphy and Dax Hill because I was trying to be positive. This is a legit A minus. An A for me at that spot with who was available would have been Quinion Mitchell or Newton. Either one of those would have been an A plus pick as far as I was concerned. Mims was third for me out of the available prospects left. And even if he's not my number one pick at that position, this is not a pick I need to go out of my way to convince myself. I can see the vision. I can see the reason. I can see how the Bengals looked at Mims and says he's the best person for us at this spot. I don't have to like convince myself of that. And that's what makes this pick different than the last two first round picks.
Yeah. You know, you can when they drafted Dax Hill, you kind of looked at that and said, well, what are they going to do? You know the idea he's going to replace Jesse Bates, and that didn't work out. And then when they drafted Miles Murphy, you're like, well, what are they going to do? You know, they just extended Trey Hendrickson. If they had done that this year, it would have made more sense considering Trey Hendrickson's trade request. But yeah, Mims makes total sense considering that you got to protect where the money's going, and that's going to Joe Burrow. You got to protect the money.
Yep.
You got to protect the face of the franchise. And if you're going to have a hard time keeping your offensive tackles healthy, why not grab a guy with the highest ceiling of the offensive tackles in this year's draft class? If you can develop him, if Frank Pollock can develop him and turn him into the stud that we think he can be, I mean, he could just be a game wrecker at right tackle. And then I called you after the pick and think about this. Let's say he doesn't play very much this year. Trent Brown's healthy. Imagine a short yardage package where you put in Amarius Mims as just an extra lineman. I mean,
sure.
You line up across from Trent Brown and Mims, or Orlando Brown Jr. and Mims, and stop those two massive human beings from helping one of the running backs gain some yards. So, as far as a final grade for me on Mims, I think I have to agree with you as an A minus, just because they're protecting what's most valuable to them, which is Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? And even though it's such a deep draft class, and you think maybe they could have gotten an offensive tackle in the second or third round, you don't know. And there was a run on.
I do not think that. No, because Guyton. I mean, it was wild. We ended up with what, like 7 tackles? In the first round.
Yeah,
they will not be available. No one you're happy with will be available in the pick 2. And this is my final point on Mims, just really quick. Is I did not expect the backlash that I saw on Twitter. I want the people in this fan base to remember that our last 2 Super Bowl runs were both completely hamstrung by a decimated O-line.
Oh,
this
100%.
Is absolutely a pick. If this pick does not return investment, it's because we got crazy lucky, not because it was like a bad pick.
But because Trent Brown's
O-lines, that's what it is, right? O-lines, healthy O-lines win Super Bowls. Right. And this investment will pay dividends. I almost guarantee it.
I do too. But yeah, I think I give it an A minus as well. I think that's a well-deserved grade. So as far as the rest of the first round played out, the first round or the first overall pick, Caleb Williams, no big surprise. The first 3 picks were quarterbacks. I don't think I was surprised when Marvin Harrison Jr. went to 4. Joe Alt wasn't surprising going to Chargers. Malik Neighbors, not surprising going to the Giants. I think the first real surprise shock was at number 8, and that was the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington, with a number 8 overall pick. And this is just a couple days after they signed, or not a couple days, but a few weeks after they signed Kirk Cousins to an expensive deal. I don't understand. I'm seeing all this stuff now that they're saying like, Kirk Cousins' camp is confused, but no shit, man. Like, what is going on? Like, why would you do that? It's just a wasted pick. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I'm not comparing Penix to Bijan or Pitts, but the Falcons are just collecting careers at this point and throwing them in the trash.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do with him, man? Like, he's not going to – they're going to develop him for 4 years?
He's going to start – he's going to make his first start when he's 28. 28-year-old rookie starting quarterback on his 5th-year option, taking his first snaps. He's going to have gray hair. He's going to be walking out there. Yeah, don't understand it.
Yeah.
So that was and that helped though. 6 quarterbacks went before the Bengals.
Oh no, I was thrilled.
So yeah, it absolutely helped.
Yes.
But that was weird to say the least. The Vikings got their quarterback JJ McCarthy. The Jets ended up taking Fashanu, Bo Nix to the Broncos. Brock Bowers, I think, at least for me, it's not I think. My opinion of Brock Bowers was if Brock Bowers is available, Brock Bowers has to be the pick. That was me. Sure. Where were you on the Brock Bowers thing?
It would have been a tie somewhere between Bowers and Murphy for me, but with neither being gone. with
Mhm.
both being gone, it is what it is. But I thought Bowers would have probably been their pick if Murphy wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was surprised he went where he went.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what their intent is with him.
I don't know. I don't
Um,
know.
but okay.
Michael Mayer was there. He was their their first round pick last year. So they 2 first round picks back to back. Michael Mayer, the best they thought the best tight end in last year's draft class, and then Brock Bowers, the best tight end we've seen in any, draft class for Kyle Pitts. Since Kyle Pitts, but look what Kyle Pitts does now. And you kind of wonder.
He blocks, but not for Bijan.
Yeah. And you kind of wonder what Brock Bowers is going to do and who he's going to catch passes of because right now it's Gardner Minshew. And I love Gardner Minshew
throwing two of the best tight end prospects we've seen in 2 years.
I know.
Cool.
I know. And I like Gardner Minshew. He's like a cool dude, but
I mean, he's fine.
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing, Raiders?
I guess if the logic is Gardner Minshew can't get it down the field, you get some kind of yak god to do it for him.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, sure. We'll see. It could work. Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know. So that was one, and that was a bummer. I didn't think Brock Bowers would be there at 18. I was surprised he lasted till 13, to be honest with you.
He lasted just long enough to hurt when he went off.
I know.
That's
know
what I mean?
Really
like,
good,
that's how long he stuck around. Just enough for me to go, maybe, and then he's gone.
I know. Once you leave the top 10 and we're like less than 10 away, I'm thinking like, oh, wait a second. Brock Bowers is there. I think it could happen. And then when his name came up, I was like, God, you dicks. You just
when that tiny bit of me started to believe.
Long enough. I know. Brock Bowers to the Raiders, Fuaga to the Saints. The first defensive player off the board came at number 15 with Laie. Yeah, which is wild too. Laie to Latu. I cannot pronounce any of those names. But yeah, so 14 straight offensive picks until they had their first defensive player come up, an edge rusher from UCLA. And considering this is a passing league, how crazy is it that they waited until 15 for someone to take an edge rusher? You just never see it. There's edge rushers.
Offense wins football games.
Yeah. I know.
It's been going that way more and more every single year. I mean, what more proof do you need, man? This was both a record-setting draft in terms of the streak of offensive players taken, all from the beginning as well, and then the number total of offensive players taken in the first round. It's wild.
It's nuts. Yep, nuts. All right, so
the Steelers took Troy Fontenot. That made me happy.
They did. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of his. I was really, really worried the Bengals were going to take him.
I think the biggest alluring thing about Fontenot was the idea that he could potentially play 4 of the 5 offensive line spots. I don't know if he really has any experience at center, but I know he could play guard. He could play tackle. Yeah. But I'd rather have Mims.
That's what I want in a first-round pick, is a guy who's above average at a few things.
Well, yeah, I know.
We're not looking for elite talent in the first round. Yeah. That's what I want in the second round or the third round.
Someone who's just good at everything.
I do not want that in a first-round pick. What I want is somebody who's elite at something.
Okay, so what you're saying is in the second and third rounds, you want Sam Hubbard, someone who's good at everything.
I would take, yes, absolutely.
Yes, right. And what you want in the first round is Trey Hendrickson, someone who's great at one thing. Oh, yes. I totally get it. So I think the pick that broke my heart was pick number 16, the Seattle Seahawks. They took Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas. I was really hoping he would last till 18 because
yesterday I participated in an online mock draft and pick 16, Byron Murphy.
Yep. Did you go Mims?
It was fate. I didn't go Mims. I can't remember. I actually went Fuaga.
Okay.
But he was off the board in this, in the real draft.
Yeah.
So
my hat's all crooked and I can't. It's like the camera. There it goes. All right. Anyway, but yeah, Byron Murphy going to Seattle hurt a little bit. There's a little bit of run on. There's edge, defensive tackle edge, and then back to the Bengals. Went back to offensive tackle with Mims, and then like you said, Fatanu went to the Steelers. Chop Robinson to the Dolphins. Quinion Mitchell, the first cornerback to go. And he believe
the Eagles stayed put. And they still got the number one. They were targeting him. They were talking about trying to move up into the top 10.
Yeah.
And they got the number one corner off the board by
I know.
just doing nothing. I mean,
know.
good on them, but damn.
Sat on their hands. Yep. Worked out for him for sure. And then, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver to the Jags. The Lions moved up to grab Terry and Arnold. The Packers grabbed, then it was, there's a run on offensive line. The Packers grabbed Jordan Morgan. Graham Barton went from Duke, went to the Bucks. And then the Chiefs and the Bills pissed everybody off. So the Bills had the number 28 overall pick. Chiefs had 32. The Bills traded back to 32, allowing the Kansas City Chiefs to draft Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
And go ahead, man. Go off. Sound off.
The Bills are an incredibly stupid team. It just pisses me off. It's insane. You don't let the Chiefs move up from 32 to grab their wide receiver.
No matter who they're going to take.
Everything about this is weird, and I hate it, kind of.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter who they're going to take. You just don't let them do it. It's the Chiefs. They're everybody's arch rival.
Yeah.
This is not me just speaking from the Bengals. The Bills should feel the exact same way. It is wild that they let them pull this move. It makes me question everything the Bills are trying to do. But part two is, fine, Chiefs, you got Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
He's going to be absolutely scary for the first 6 games of the season until somebody shatters him like a twig. He is the tiniest man I've ever seen play the sport. It is wild how thin he is. He looks malnourished. And it just is what it is. And I know, like, I'm instantly going harder on him because he's now a Chief, and that's just the way my brain works. And I'm going to do that. But he is not worth the pick they drafted. It's a bad move by the Chiefs. It's a bad move by the Bills. Congratulations. You deserve each other.
And what did you say on Twitter? Congratulations.
Oh,
Kansas
congratulations.
City Chiefs. You got your
John Ross.
Got John Ross.
Yeah, where you prioritize speed over everything else. Like,
I know.
I love, you even see people like defending it, like, oh well, he's small, he's light, but he's like, he's not afraid of contact. He should be. That's not a positive. That's a negative. The fact that he's not afraid of contact is not going to be in his benefit when 250-pound linebackers are bearing down on him, man.
Break him in half. This is like a Raiders move to me. Is, hey, we have a quarterback who can throw the ball a country mile. You know what we need? A good, talented, speedy wide receiver. Get rid of everything except speedy. You know what I mean? And I heard, I was kind of walking around and I heard Mel Kiper talking about how this is potentially they moved up and grabbed their Tyreek Hill. No. Tyreek Hill is not just fast. Tyreek Hill is a great wide receiver. And I'd put him up there. Tyreek Hill's up there with Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
This guy's just fast. And until he
it's
proves
not
otherwise,
even Tyreek Hill's top speed that makes Tyreek Hill so dangerous.
Tyreek Hill's route running ability.
It's how quickly he can turn, how quickly he can change direction. That's the actual speed that makes Tyreek Hill as dangerous as he is. The rest is just a bonus.
Yeah. So they move up, they get this guy. I mean, he's fast. The idea that he's the next Tyreek Hill is ridiculous. But moving on, Dallas Cowboys end up taking Tyler Guyton, another offensive tackle, off the board. And like you said, you're absolutely right. I don't see a way the Bengals could have waited until even the second to grab an offensive tackle.
The moment Guyton went off that board, I was like, oh yeah, no, Mims was the pick. We were never going to find that tackle in the second or third without a crazy reach for a risky player.
Right. I agree. And then it's rounded off Nate Wiggins to the Ravens, Ricky Pearsall to the 49ers, and then the Bills traded out of the first round, giving their pick to the Carolina Panthers, who took Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. And I told you before we started that I think the main reason the Bills traded back to 32 was so that they could have the 32nd pick, because they won't ever get it otherwise. And then, like you said, they realized sitting at 32, we don't deserve this, guys.
Nah, 32 don't feel right.
We don't deserve. No, it's not right. We got to trade back. So, so that kind of puts a bow on the first round. So it was weird. It was weird. Some weird stuff happened.
It was not as wild as I thought it was going to be, but it did get weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking trades. I'm thinking the Chargers are going to trade back. Vikings are going to jump up big time. And I think there were 2 trades, but they weren't like some drastic, crazy things. They just, the fact that there were quarterbacks available, in the teens, I thought that all the quarterbacks that were going to go in the first would go in the top 10. People were going to trade up. And they just kept falling, But I think, considering the Bengals, the situation that they were in with who was available to them and who they think would be available, the next day that I think they nailed it. I don't think that they could have waited another round for an offensive tackle, just unless they were planning on trading up, which we can talk about that. So, any other thoughts on the first round before we kind of jump into who's available for tomorrow?
No, I think we should do just a brief summary of where we think the Bengals are heading and call it.
So tomorrow, 7 p.m., obviously the second and third rounds start off. The Bengals will have the number 49 overall pick, number 80 and 97. I think that's right. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I think it's 49, 80, 97. And we can go over some players that are still available. Do you want to go by just top players available? You want to kind of break it down by position? What do you want to do?
I was just going to give my general thoughts, but if you got anybody in particular you want to bring up, I do think cornerback's off the table.
Okay.
I don't think they have any intention of grabbing a cornerback on day 2. I think that was they were looking for like a true game-changing cornerback, and I think that was definitely in the cards in the first round. I don't think it's in the cards for just a role player, basically, is what they become in the second or third. I do want to put that out there. Beyond that, I think they're definitely going to be looking at wide receiver, defensive tackle, hopefully tight end, Ben Sennett. Maybe I can see a running back as well. What do you think?
So they got 3 picks without moving around. I could see any combination of wide receiver, tight end, running back, defensive tackle, interior offensive lineman. I think could be a sneaky pick because you got 2 guys going out in the next 2 years in Ted Karras and Kappa. You know,
I would not be mad at Zach Frazier or Cooper Beebe.
No, absolutely not at all. So you have 3 picks in the next 2 rounds, and there's a chance. So there's some guys that we can say the only chance that the Bengals get a hold of them are to trade up. And those guys, Johnny Newton, defensive tackle, cornerback, like you said, they would have to trade up to grab a guy like Cooper DeJean. Kool-Aid McKinstry probably have to trade up for that too. Enos Rickestraw, those guys are probably not going to be available at 49. So I do agree with you. I think that unless they move up, they'll be taking the best player available at some of the positions they're looking at. And some of those could be, like you said, I do like the idea of Ben Sennett, and is it Sennett? Sennett. Okay.
Oh, I've heard pronounced Sennett, but I guess I've never heard him say it, so I'm not really certain.
Okay. There you go. But I can see Sennett in the third or fourth. I don't know how you feel about Cade Stovard, Jatavian Sanders, those guys are still available, could be taken in the second or third. And then, like you
We're
said,
talking day 2, I do not see anybody but Sennett being in the cards for the Bengals for tight end.
I would agree with that, probably. I would agree. I think he's the best pure pass catching tight end available at this point. I think he's the best other than Brock Bowers. I think he was the best pass catching tight end available. But we also can't forget Mike Gesicki's here too. So it's not like we have no tight end.
And then, like you said, use a Ben Sennett if only because Ben Sennett can play a true tight end 1 role where he doesn't give away. And Mike Gesicki's the slot. It is who he is. I mean, I think he's going to be a good addition, but let's be honest about the role he's going to play.
Yeah. I think he's going to replace Tyler Boyd. But yeah, so those guys are, like you said, Zach Frazier. If they want to address the future of the interior offensive line, he should be available tomorrow, and when they go on the clock in the second or third. As far as defensive tackle goes, like I said, they're going to have to trade up to get Johnny Newton, but they're Braden Fisk, Chris Jenkins, Mason Smith. I think the guy that I have my eye on for defensive tackle is T'Vondre Sweat, and that's because he's massive. I think he's a nose tackle. He's a nose tackle. But he's massive, and I think that he kind of fits the need that he fits their need. Is we have the pass rusher, we have BJ Hill, Sheldon Rankins. Now we need Sweat to be in there, a first, second down kind of rotational guy that will take out on obvious passing downs. I see by the look on your face, you hate the idea.
I cannot see them doing it with the character concern.
I know.
I just don't think it's going to happen. If Sweat ends up a Bengal, it's because he falls to the 5th round, and some other team's not going to care about the character concerns the same way the Bengals are. And so he's not going to happen. Sweat on day 2, 3 weeks ago, would have been a dream.
Oh, yeah.
These days, I'm leaning Chris Jenkins. If he's available, I think he's who the Bengals jump on. I can also see him going running back. I really like Trey Benson.
Okay.
He'd probably actually be my running back 1 if I had to.
Over Jonathan Brooks?
I think so.
Okay.
But I'm flexible.
Yeah.
I think Estime is probably the one they're most targeting, but I don't think they would.
I think that's a
him
day
in the
4
fourth
guy
round.
or
Yeah.
a day 3 guy. I see Estime. I think he fits really well into the running back room. He's got kind of that this power back. You know what I mean? And I think he fits in. It fits in well for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's guys all over the place. They could do almost anything. If you had to take a guess at what they do at 49 or what position they're specifically looking at, what would you say?
I think it's defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle. Okay.
I do.
Right.
I think it's defensive tackle. I think this is always intending to be a trenches draft.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be defensive tackle. If they had their preference, it's going to be defensive tackle in the second round, and their third round picks, as long as neither one of them is used to move around, will be some combination of tight end, running back, and wide receiver.
Okay. All right.
That's my guess.
Sorry, I'm sick. I would say my guess is I'd say 49. They're probably looking at defensive tackle as well. I think that's the biggest area of need. I just don't know if there's going to be anyone there at 49 worthy of that pick. But there's so many, there's a lot they can do for depth. I could see running back. I could see wide receiver. There's some wide receivers available,
Sure.
Lad McConkey is available. I don't think he lasts to 49 at all.
That'd be a lot of people had, wouldn't it?
Oh, I know. A lot of people had a first round grade on him, but there's a lot of talented wide receivers that are available,
I thought Lad McConkey could go before Xavier Worthy. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, yeah, I for sure thought that. So we've been on for a little while. I do want to wrap it up soon because it is 12:30 and you and I both have to work, and 772 people watching have to work.
Oh, damn.
Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins have asked for a trade.
Sure.
Okay. I think.
Why are we raining on this parade? Why are we doing this?
I know. I'm just. Hold on a second.
This is happy times.
I know.
All right.
I personally believe that they will both be playing for the Bengals in 2024, and in Trey Hendrickson's case, probably 2025. But if they're going to be traded in this draft, it will be Thursday or Friday, not Saturday. It'll be Friday.
Yeah.
Do you think, what are the chances between not going to happen and definitely going to happen that either of them get traded? Because I think it's way under not going to happen. Just no chance.
I think there is zero chance Henderson gets traded. People who want to insult the Bengals go on about how we're a poverty franchise, you can't pay our players. The Bengals look at this and go, man, do we have a all-star player for stupid cheap.
Yeah.
They're not going to let that go. The T. Higgins situation is different in that they're not overpaying, but they're overpaying in like pure cap for a player like T. Higgins. So I do think they're at least willing to move on from him. I don't see a way it happens. They would need, I mean, they need a high second and then some, and then probably some more. So I give it maybe
go ahead.
Yeah, a high second, next year's first, next year's second, high second of 2/3. I mean, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, no one's willing to pay it.
Right.
So I give it 0 on Hendrickson, 5% on T, just because he's a good enough talent that someone out there may fall in love with the idea and move mountains to get him. But that's what it would take.
There are teams out there that are, don't have much wide receiver depth, that have a quarterback. They're thinking, if we could just get a guy like that, you know what I mean? If we could just get a guy like that, we'd be set. I don't, like you said, 0% for Hendrickson, 5% for T. Higgins. I think I'm on board with that. I don't think he's going anywhere. The wide receiver position is easier to replace, and it's deeper this year. It's deep this year for the second and third rounds, but I just don't see it happening. Not going to happen. All right. Anything else you got to say, buddy?
That's it. That's it. Who day, man. Right. I'm legitimately pumped. Day 2. Here we come.
I am too. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, we're usually on 3 and Out. We are a part of Orange Black Insider, Jason and Kevin. If you caught us today, but you missed Anthony and John earlier while the draft was going on, go check their show out. It was great. We are on Believe Network now, still brought to you by Cincy Jungle. And we are, that's it, man. That's it.
Podcast listeners, update your RSS feeds.
Yes.
They will not refresh on their own.
Yeah, they won't. So it is 12:31. I don't know how I'm going to go to bed.
Nah, I'm pumped, dude.
I'm going to go lay down and think about what's going to happen tomorrow and look at video of Mims just absolutely destroying people in the 8 games that he started at Georgia this year.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to do.
I'm legitimately excited about Mims, dude. My family was texting me wanting the update about it, and at a certain point, like, there's no way to talk about Mims without getting weird, because you just start talking about his freakish body.
I know,
and you start feeling weird about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you almost want to like send like, look at him.
I know.
Just
look at him.
Yeah.
What about his like? Is he good? Just look at his body. Look at his body. Look at him. Yeah. I saw a picture of Mims at the combine of him standing just around normal people. You know what I mean? And he looked like a giant. A giant that went to, a giant that like went to the Shire, walking around all the hobbits. That's what he looked like, for sure.
I did send my family the video of him in high school. That video is never stops being hilarious.
Oh, I know. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us late tonight. We appreciate it. Go to CincyJungle.com. Check out the rest of OBI. Thanks for watching. Who Day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Probably, maybe. I don't know. Who Day.
Who Day.
Hold on, I'm not ready for. I'm getting there. Who Day. I don't know.
This is the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. Former Bengals linebacker Takeo Spike